Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby. Welcome to a review of the IS-6, which is a Tier 8 Russian premium heavy tank. Shout out to Roadrunner, who has given me the opportunity to test out this tank. Thank you very much, dude. As it is a premium tank, you get to use your Russian heavy crew in it for no penalty, so I am deciding to use my IS-7 crew in this tank as I want to keep them trained up. If you have a Russian heavy crew, that's a big plus, whether you're deciding if you should get this tank or not. It's situated here, and we can see that its purchase price is 11,800. So it's not cheap, it's in line with the other Tier 8 premium heavy tanks, and that's because it can make a good amount of credits, as you're going to see later on in the video. This tank also, very interestingly, gets preferential matchmaking, which means that this tank can never meet a Tier 10 tank. Now that's very important because what I'm going to be talking about in a bit with the penetration values of this tank and its armor. The tank's got fairly good hit points, 1,550. It's fairly heavy, 52 tons, and it's got an okay engine power of 700. Its top speed limit is 35, which is fairly good for a Tier 8 heavy tank. Its traverse speed is 26, which is okay. It's got 100mm of frontal armor, 100mm of side armor, and 60mm of rear armor. Now, while this might not look good on paper, look at the angles of this tank. Even the lower plate on the front is very well angled, and the sheer angles on the front and the side are very impressive. What this means is that, in my opinion, you should probably try and angle this tank at about 40 degrees. Maybe just under, maybe 38 degrees, something around that kind of region. Probably about this angle here. And hope that the enemy maybe try and shoot your tracks, which would be absorbed, or they try and shoot here, which has got a very good chance to bounce at this kind of an angle. If they try and shoot your side, this is going to be an auto bounce. So the turret is very low profile, as you can see. It has some opportunities to be penetrated with the weak cupolas at the top. However, this tank does have a rather large weakness, which is the driver's hatch on the front, which I must point out that you can try and penetrate fairly easily with 200mm penetration guns. The tank's turret has got 150mm at the front, the side, and 100 at the rear, which means that high penetration guns can just blitz through the front of the turret. But that's generally only going to be Tier 9 tanks that are able to blitz through the front of the turret, which is the worst possible tank that this can meet. This tank has got a fairly interesting 122mm cannon with a very good rate of fire. 5.13 is very good for a Russian heavy tank. If we consider the IS-3 quickly, let's compare with the IS-3 gun, we can see that the IS-6 has got a hell of a lot more DPM than the IS-3. However, it suffers from a massively lower penetration value of 175 with regular ammo, 217 with Prem rounds. Its alpha damage is the same, which means that its rate of fire give it that higher DPM. It is a very inaccurate gun of 0.46 with a horrible aim time of 3.44. So I suggest you use vertical stabilizers to minimize the 3.4 second aim time, as well as a rammer and vents, which is my standard setup on most tanks. So without further ado, let's see how this beast plays in the games.
Let's get this show on the road.
Okay guys, so here we go. This is the second game I ever played in the IS-6 along with Jingles in his IS-6 as well. Let's just speed the game up. The way that I feel like I want to play this tank is very aggressive. I want to use the great rate of fire and low penetration and poor accuracy and poor aim time to get up close and personal with tanks and try and bully them with my fairly fantastic armor. So here we can see that the enemy has got two Tier 7 French scout tanks who are among their best players on their team, most experienced players as well. They've rushed the middle and they're going to be counter-scouting our T-52s. I'm talking with Jingles here and we're deciding that it's time to put the pain on them and try and take them out early. I stopped to take a cheeky shot, put the first one in. Fortunately, I lose my loader to an SU-5 and my track gets blown off, but I decide not to repair it. I think I've got a penetrating shot here, but unfortunately it hits the gun of the T-50. We can see that we're taking quite a good amount of punishment here and only lost 300 health on the way in. Here I'm advancing with Jingles. And I managed to hit the T-50's cupola looking like a complete donkey. We can see that the AMX 1375 has penetrated us once. He bounces his second shell, as does the T-71, and he puts one more shell in. I'm hoping that I can ram him to death from behind, but the T-69 helps me out. So that T-71 just took a rather meaty hit. And unfortunately we don't roll high, but he ends up getting killed by the artillery. So far so good. We've taken out the two best players on the enemy team, and they were very valuable tier 7 scouts. Now here we can see the tier 8 medium. T-69 is being very aggressive, coming in to YOLO me. I see he's going all the way round. I managed to absorb some damage with my tracks, and we get a nice roll. And we set him on fire there to save a little bit more health. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have been able to kill me with his 2 remaining shells, but at least we managed to get a little bit more health left. So I think I've showcased really in that. That was hectic, and I missed a couple of shots. So really, I feel like that is what the IS-6 is good for, is just reckless abandon, just going in and putting out some punishment and trying to put pressure on targets without very good armor. That its penetration, it doesn't really matter that you've only got 175 millimeters of penetration. We can see the poor accuracy of the tank there. It went very far right on the grill, but we take him out anyway. I foolishly come round the corner before I was reloaded and take a shot from the Panther, who we can see there penetrated my turret. We managed to bounce his second shell, and we put ours into his track. I'm trying to dictate the pace of the combat here. He took our track off and did max damage to me, so I'm thinking that I'm not angling the tank here perfectly yet. And unfortunately we don't roll very high there and leave him on 3% health. And we've got a broken gun. Looking back on it now, I wish I'd reloaded an HE shell. I'm worried about what the artillery are doing. But he misses our shell, and we just put another one into him with sheer brutality, doing 1,430 damage to that Panther 2, and only taking about 400-500 damage. So we can see we're getting snuck up on by the artillery. He gets taken out. I don't have a shot on the AMX, and he gets taken out as well. And that's it. That's the end of the game. So here we can see the post-game stats for the game that we just saw in the IS-6. We can see that we made a fairly meaty 118,000 credits, and we got just shy over 2k to get a 4k double, and that was enough to get our mastery badge in this tank. It's not the highest amount of experience that you need to get a mastery badge, so it's not too bad. That's kind of what I would expect in this tank, and I was quite happy to get it on the second game that I played. Looking at more detailed stats, we can see that we managed to do 3,683 damage in that game, which was the most by a fair margin. We got 3 kills. We got a sniper medal as well because we hit 12 out of 13 shots. And because we were being very aggressive against low armored targets, we were able to penetrate 11 of those 12 shells. We took 22 hits that game and still finished with some health, which gave us a potential damage received of 4,785, which was a fairly strong result. I want to say firstly thank you to Roadrunner for this tank and allowing me to test it out. And what I will say is that I kind of like it. I think because it gets the preferential matchmaking, that its 175mm penetrating cannon is not too bad. You think that the IS meets tier 9 tanks occasionally, so if you're able to use the IS well, then you should be able to use the IS-6 well. The DPM on the IS-6 is a lot stronger than most of the other Russian heavies, so that excellent rate of fire with the 122mm cannon should not be underestimated. I think if you see an IS-6 against you, I've known from playing this tank to be quite afraid if you give it your flank or your rear. Even if you're in a high tier tank, say let's say you're playing the E-75, try and keep your frontal armor to these things because their DPM is surprisingly high. For a premium tank, because generally the premium tanks have got punchy guns which have got much lower DPM, Like when you think about the T-34, for example, this thing has much higher DPM than the T-34, but it doesn't have that 240 plus penetration that the T-34 does, or gun depression. This tank has pretty awful gun depression. So if you want a tank that you can use a bit like a Brawler, if you can say that as a heavy, if you just want to have a tank to make some easy credits where you don't really want to stress too much, you want to just go in and kind of just have some fun, and you've got the DPM to get you out of some situations, and you want to get up and close and personal, then I think this might be the Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank for you. As always, guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you've appreciated this kind of post-game commentary, then think about giving me a like at the bottom. I'd really appreciate it. And I live stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And I'm at QuickyBaby on Twitter, and I've got a Facebook that I've put links in the description below. So guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Good luck on the battlefield, and hopefully I'll catch you soon.